Hey guys, this is a video to look at creating a flickering light macro for, in this case, a point light, but you could essentially do it for any form of light source. So I'll take a step back and I'll show you what's going on, and then I'll delve into its implementation and execution. So the reason why I've picked a macro instead of a function is because macros can use a delay ability, so like this, just like you would do in the event graph, but functions cannot. There's a few downsides to whether, depending on which way you want to go. Obviously, if you turn it into a macro, you can't use it, you can't reference it. You know, if in another blueprint you're trying to reference that function, that macro, for example, like this light flicker one on the left, you wouldn't be able to reference it. So you need to trigger it inside itself. So that's a bit of the reason why it's a macro instead of a function. What it is doing, it takes the like a point light component. So it would normally be a point light if it was in the scene, but because the point light is a component of this blueprint, it is a point light component. So if you have an issue with that, you might just need to swap it to component if you're trying to reference a point light inside. Like essentially, if it's under the components and it's a point light, that might be where you're going wrong. Takes the point light component, it looks to see whether it's on, then if true, turn it off, then a random float variable, and then turn it back on again, and then that's the output. Currently it works on tick, but I might get it to work on begin play depending on how I want to go about it. So then there's another boolean saying flicker true false. If true, do the point light flicker animation, if not ignore it. And how this executes is I'm in the middle of changing this to all the lights now are like blueprints, and the light switch is a version 2. So instead of having an array of just point lights in the scene, it now has an array of these wall point lights, which are a child of this master point light. So what happens is these are all currently, like the left is off, no flicker, middle is on, off, no flicker, right is on with flicker. Now that means that regardless of it being on or off with the light switch, that one will always flicker. So let me show you. So it's on a random flicker, and it looks like that, and I can turn them all off. There you go. And yeah, it's just that simple. It's basically if a function could do a delay, I don't think I'd ever pick a macro. Just a bit of detail if you're curious, how I also use the macro for shooting when I do like burst or full auto. Then like the macro, like it does it 3 times, or it does it like an unlimited amount of times with like a time differential. So you know, if you fire a bullet every half a second, then that would be like the automatic. But that's going off course a bit for another macro. So this is how to do a flicker. I'm going to put in a few things and then flicker with different lights, set it up to do timed events. So let's say I get an event to work on event begin play and have it's like if custom event happens in level, then true, then get to do some weird like Silent Hill sort of flickery light stuff. That would be really cool in terms of a macro, because a function you just wouldn't be able to do a delay. So the only way you could do it not using the macro would be having a light flicker function to turn off, and then a delay, and then a light flicker function to turn on, and then get it to loop. And that's just ridiculous. So long story short, this is how you get it to flicker, like so. Magic.